what does instant gratification and loyalty actually look like? So I did some maths, right? So I went out and I did some research, and I thought, what else is going on? And so I found some really interesting statistics. So this is from the United States. So in the US in the 1960s, 72% of people were married above 18. In 2010, that number had dropped to 51%. Only 51% of Americans over 18 are now married. And even more startling, those that are married are really likely to cheat now. So 41% of men in marriages cheat. I mean, they're really startling. So what these statistics are telling you is go home and watch your partner. But what these statistics are telling you is that there's a social change going on. There's a social change within all of us that is against long-term coupling. Right? So if we don't even want to get married, and even when we do get married, we don't want to stay loyal, what chance do you have in a loyalty program that has short-term gain, or short-term accumulation and long-term redemption? Right. And so just to prove that this is not just a social phenomenon that occurs, behind closed doors, I found some data on banking, again in the US, because it's where they have the best data. So we looked at banking relationships. So this column here, you can't read it, so I'm going to have to read it to you. But this column here is the length of a relationship in the United States of a banking relationship that was formed before 1979. So if you joined your bank before 1979, you are likely to stay with your bank for 7.3 years. If you joined your bank between 1979 and 1995, you are only likely to stay with your bank for 3.9 years, half, within a very short space of time. But the most important indicator here is actually the median. So the median is where 50% of the data is on either side. So before 1979, the median was 6 years. And between 1979 and 1995, it was 2. What that tells you is that the rate of decline is very fast. Is that the speed at which customers are leaving their banks or churning their banks is actually rising. So it's not just a social phenomenon, it's something that people are taking into their very, very dear to their heart commercial relationships with their banks. Right? Because you would think, if you're a retailer or you're a telco, everybody would love to have the length of the relationship with the bank has. But even the banks are losing their grip on their customers. So it raises the question, if customers are looking for instant gratification, why do we keep offering them marriage? We don't walk up to somebody in a bar and say, hey, do you want to marry me? Right? You also don't get married, right? And then ignore, as a man, right? So I'll say this as a man. You don't get married as a man and then let your wife, wait on you hand and foot for your entire life, and then at the end of it, when you retire, you might be nice to her, right? You might. Right? If she's good to you, if she's good enough, you've got to wake up every morning. So here's my relationship advice to you. You've got to wake up every morning and say, how can I make you happy? If you wake up every morning and you think to yourself, how do I make my partner happy today? You'll probably stay married forever, right? And when I was at Westpac 20 years ago, Westpac nearly went broke. And we had this American come over to save the bank. And apart from sacking half of us, he used to drill into us, life is a series of short-term wins. And I hated it. It drove me nuts because I worked in strategy, right? And strategy is all about long-term and it's all about, the future. And he used to drum into us, life is a series of short-term wins. And I never understood it. As a young analyst, I never understood it. But what he really meant was exactly that. It was that we have to wake up every day and we have to figure out how are we going to win today. And we need to do that with our customers as well. We need to make sure that every day that a customer walks into our store, comes onto our website, or engages with us, is that we're thinking about how do we make that customer win. If you do that, that will create long-term loyalty. Points programs and points accumulations, they don't create long-term loyalty, right? They create shackles for customers. Right? And it's not the same thing.